Will was born into a world of magic without any magical skills. Despite this, he decides to become the strongest magician by killing every monster in the dungeon with his sword. Will is a young boy living in a world where magic is valued more than anything, but unfortunately for him, he was born without any magical talent. Still, he gets enrolled in one of the most prestigious academies. The problem is, how can someone without any magical talent succeed at a university like this? He decides to tackle this problem by honing his skills with the sword and regularly heading off to high-level dungeons. There, he fights against giant beasts that shoot magic spells at him, which he dodges using his incredible speed and prowess with his sword. He stylishly slices the monsters in half with a single slash. This is just a warm-up for him, though, as he realizes he needs to deal with dozens of similar monsters if he wants to escape the dungeon alive. This isn't a big problem for him, as he has done this several times before. The next morning, he goes to the classroom extremely tired, where a professor named Edward teaches them about the basics of alchemy and how to produce sulfur, which helps in the creation of explosives. Edward notices Will dozing off in the back, so he calls his name. Unaware, Will keeps snoring until Edward shouts his name, surprising him. Will stands up immediately. Edward calls him out to the front and asks him to demonstrate what they were just talking about. Without any other choice, Will steps forward. Will is forced to go in front of the entire class to demonstrate the process. Edward tells him that it's super easy and all he has to do is produce some flames and sulfur will be created. Will shakily takes out his wand and chants the spell to bring forth flames, but to his dismay, not even a small spark emerges from the wand. All the students start laughing at him as if he were a stand-up comedian, but the teacher tells them to shut up. Edward looks at Will with disgust and claims he has no idea how someone like Will can be so good at theory, but utterly fail at any kind of practical magic. He wonders how Will even got selected for this academy. Suddenly, a red-haired boy named Cheyenne takes out his wand and confidently points it toward the items on the desk, using his flame magic to completely burn them and create sulfur while Will cowers behind the flames. Edward tells them not to do anything without permission as he immediately creates a huge crystal of sulfur with his magic spell. Edward tells them that magic is the most important thing in this world as mages are heroes, and to survive at this academy, the students need to be good at magic. Fools who have no idea how to control magic should simply leave the academy. After the class is over, Cheyenne and his friends corner Will and embarrass him by saying that he can only kill low-level dungeon monsters. But a classmate and childhood friend of Will's named Khalid steps in and tells Cheyenne to leave him alone as he is much nicer than him and his group. Cheyenne gets a bit flustered but laughs it off, claiming that kindness and hard work won't get you very far without magic, before walking away with his goons. Khalid and Will start walking while she tells him not to worry too much, but Will seems pretty used to this bullying as he looks towards the sky, claiming that it looks beautiful. It turns out that several years ago, humans were trapped under a layer of darkness and never saw the sky because they lived in fear of some evil spirits who cast a shadow over the entire world. Thankfully, 5 legendary mages stood up to the evil spirits, and after a huge battle, they managed to push them back, freeing the humans from the darkness and showing them what the real sky looked like. These mages were known as Magiavanders, and that title now passes down to the most powerful mages in the world. Will remembers the promise he made to one of his childhood friends, Elfie, who used to show him storybooks about the Magiavanders. They made a pact with each other that they would become Magiavanders one day. Elfie kept her end of the deal as she had incredible talent and quickly rose through the ranks to become the youngest Magiavander in history, eventually living in the Divine Tower. Meanwhile, Will turned out to be far below average, barely clinging to the dream and the promise. Later that day, Will goes to meet Professor Worker, who ends up screaming at him when he learns that Will went to level 7 dungeons all alone. Professor Worker tells him that one day he will get killed. Will falls to the ground and apologizes, but then asks whether he will get the credit for it or not. Worker takes a sigh and awards Will 2 credits for his troubles. While Will is busy celebrating, Worker asks him if he still hasn't given up on his dream to become a Vander. Worker explains that to even have a small chance of becoming a Vander, Will needs to get admitted to the Upper Institute. To do that, he needs a lot of credits in writing, spell work, and fighting. Since he can't use any spells, he will never get any credits for spell work. So no matter how many credits he gets in the other 2, he will never qualify. Will claims that no matter what, he is going to try. Worker tells him that first he will have to graduate, but as far as he knows, Will needs 4 more credits by the end of the week. This shocks Will, who immediately starts searching for monsters that can give him the 4 credits. Worker tells him that there is a monster called Baskerville on the 6th floor which hasn't been defeated yet. Will immediately hugs his teacher, but unbeknownst to them, Cheyenne overhears this and decides to head out to the dungeons himself to kill the monster before Will, so he gets kicked out of the academy for not having enough credits. Later that evening, Will enters the cave alongside his cat, Kiki, and tells her to use her nose to find the monster. Kiki doesn't seem too keen on it, as the last time Will fought a basilisk, she ended up getting burnt by its breath. On the other side, Cheyenne and his cronies also enter the 6th floor, determined to find the beast before Will, so he gets kicked out. One of his underlings with pink, feminine hair asks if it's a good idea for just 3 mages to enter the 6th floor. Cheyenne looks at him angrily, claiming that he is one of the best mages in the class and can deal with it. Suddenly, a huge monster appears and punches the spiky-haired boy so hard that he becomes a pancake on the wall. Cheyenne is beyond shocked, unable to move, while the feminine underling starts screaming in terror. Will overhears the scream and immediately gets up, running with the speed of lightning toward the noise as he worries about someone getting hurt. He turns a corner and spots Cheyenne on the floor, shooting fire blasts at the monster, who doesn't seem bothered by it at all. Will immediately recognizes the monster as the Sentinel, an extremely strong monster worth 10 credit scores, and wonders what it's doing on this level of the dungeon. He realizes that Cheyenne's magic is nothing to the monster as it completely ignores the flame blasts and keeps moving toward the terrified boy on the floor. Will thinks about helping him but suddenly remembers all the times Cheyenne ridiculed him for no reason. This makes him want to shut his eyes and pretend he never saw it, but then he remembers Elfie, who told him that he is the kindest person she knew and gifted him a pair of glasses. This reminds him of who he truly is, and he puts on the glasses just as the monster raises its weapon to finish the cocky brat once and for all. Will blocks the monster's attack just in time and forces it away, saving Cheyenne's life. Back at the academy, Edward enters Worker's room and tells him to immediately send his familiar into the dungeons, as Shen and his lackeys went inside to the 6th floor without permission. Worker realizes what's happened, but tells Edward not to worry, as Will is also on the same floor. Back in the dungeon, Will clashes with the monster again and again, blocking its attacks and outmaneuvering it before delivering a swift slash to its arm, slicing a finger off. The monster angrily tries to attack, but Will dodges it, moving through the air like an eagle. The monster finally catches Will, but he manages to block the blow with his sword. He gets blasted back, and the monster throws rocks at him, which he slashes through effortlessly. He jumps around the monster and manages to land on its back before stabbing it right through the neck. The monster starts flailing while Cheyenne is beyond shocked to see Will's capabilities. Back at the academy, Edward is also shocked to see this, while Worker claims that Will is an outcast because he has no magic but possesses superhuman strength for a mage. He is as hardy as a dwarf, and his brain is so capable that he learns all the attack patterns of any race just by having one look at them. They watch as Will manages to slash off the monster's arm and then calmly walks towards the giant sword on the ground. Will picks up the giant sword effortlessly. Worker tells Edward that in a world filled with magic and wizards, Will is the only warrior. The monster shoots an energy beam out of its mouth, but Will manages to block it with a giant sword and slashes it at the monster, slicing it into little pieces. The monster falls to the ground, not moving. Will then walks over and offers Cheyenne his helping hand, who still looks shocked. Edward can't believe his eyes and screams at Worker that a person without magic can never surpass a magician before storming out of the room. Worker realizes that Edward is in denial and knows that Will's story is going to become legendary. He sees Will turning the world upside down by making Wistoria the only place in the world where a wand and a sword meet. This wraps up the first episode of Wistoria, Wand and Sword Recap. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.